Welcome, Crusaders. Thanks for joining me for Pathfinder, Wrath of the Righteous. We're just hanging out here at the bar in Defender's Heart with Gemmel and Camellia here. We've taken some time. I'm trying to take my time and visit with everybody here. We talked to Staunton last time. We've got some people over here. I doubt if these guys have anything to say, but let's check. What if Canabras isn't the only city overrun? What if this is how it all ends? These guys... Okay, here we've got some named people. Let's... Yado. I believe that help is already on the way. The queen will not leave us to die. And Visali Rathimus. A stout old man with a fuzzy gray beard mumbles a prayer. He looks as tired as everyone else in the tavern, but determination is stamped upon his haggard face. What can I do for you? Okay, this is a cleric selling stuff. Looks like. Who are you? Vasily Rathimus, rector of the local temple of Abadar. The temple is gone, though, and if we snooze here for much longer, the city will be lost as well. Who is that boy with you? I guess he means this guy. This one, Kiado the Shepherd, my apprentice. He's a smart boy and his faith is strong. He serves Aristil, though, but there's still something he can learn from an old servant of Abadar. He'll be a great cleric when he gets a little older. What kind of help can I expect from you? First, I sell scrolls. I have a lot of them, something for every emergency. Second, while you're here in the tavern, I can read one for you. Guaranteed no surprises. But you'd better not go into the city without a cleric. I won't be going there myself. I'm too old and my powers are needed here. Alright, let's see what you've got for sale. We spent quite a bit of money on healing potions. We do have some things we need to sell still. I was kind of waiting to see if we ran across any other merchants in here. So he has alchemist kits. Kit allows you to create potions of 1-level spells. I'm gonna have to work out this whole potion creation and scroll scribing. We can do scroll scriber's kit. Let's just buy one. Oh, okay. We'll buy the cheap one of each of those. See if we figure out what those are for. Slimy skin. So this is like ingredients then for potions and stuff, I gather. Okay, let's grab some Cure Light Wound scrolls. A lot of these things would be useful, but we're not exactly rolling in gold at the moment. Okay, well, it's good to know that he is here when we need it. Although we keep getting kind of subtle or not subtle warnings that it's kind of like our time here, at least for now, seems limited. Like there's going to be some event that's going to alter things here, so we better do what we need to while we can. Anevia, in her muted colors, blends almost perfectly into the background. She appears relaxed, but her seemingly unfocused eyes are taking in everything around her, tracking and filtering potential threats. The only tell is the way she drums her fingers on her hip near her weapon sheath. She shows no sign of her injuries and confidently leans on her previously broken leg. She pretends to have just noticed you, even though she watched you approach from afar. Oh hey, see how they patched me up? Now I can run, jump, or dance a jig if I feel like it. Are there any suspicious places in the city that I should pay attention to? There were a couple spots I wanted to check out, but I didn't have time. If there really is a den of cultists there, it would be good if you could swoop in there and bust some heads. You don't even need a search warrant. Anevia shoots you a crooked smile. First one is the Silken Thread. It's a funny little tailor shop that doesn't take any orders and never buys any fabric, but they always seem oh so busy. They're busy with something in there, all right, but sewing, it ain't. Silken Thread Atelier has been revealed. Second one is the alchemy shop, Topaz Solutions. And they trade in everything, not just healing potions. Judging by the ingredients they've been buying on the black market, there's something fishy about the alchemical rituals going down in that place. Okay, tell me about yourself. She shrugs with a lazy smile. I'd be happy to, but there's kinda nothing to tell. What's so interesting about me? Where are you from? Nowhere. I was blown in by the wind and found in a cabbage patch. She stops short. Sorry, that's an old habit of mine. I don't like blabbing about my past. But you saved my skin, so I guess I kinda owe it to you not to clown around, right? I'm from Nidal, and I wouldn't wish my homeland on my worst enemy. You've heard of the place, I'm sure, ruled by monsters that aren't alive or dead, and the official religion is the cult of Zon-Kuthon. I grew up in a slum, like a weed between the cobblestones. I didn't have a dad, but I had lots of aunts and uncles, my mom's cronies. No prize for guessing the kind of business she was involved in. They gave me a set of lockpicks as soon as I could hold a spoon, and while the other kids were picking their noses, I was picking pockets. When I was 12, the monks of the Silent Shroud came for us. Creepy guys with their mouths sewn shut. They're the guards in Nizrak. Mom gave me to her friends, and we hid in a secret temple of Desna. I never saw my mom again. I lay low in the temple for the next few years, kept my head down. I washed floors, fetched water, listened to sermons. Funny thing, after a while I started liking Desna's teachings. But as soon as I was old enough, I was out of there. I left Nidal and got as far away as I could. That's quite a ragtag group you've got here. From nobles to street thieves. You got that right, haha, only the best for you. What do you do if the knights and nobles fail to save the world? The lowlifes are our only hope. How did you meet Irabeth? I was bumming around Timon a while back, doing this and that. Desnan temples sometimes gave me odd jobs. You know, sometimes they needed sometimes they needed people with skills like mine. On the surface, it was fine, I guess. After Nidal, the freedom of river kingdoms should have seemed like heaven, my chance to sit back and enjoy life. But I wasn't happy. There just wasn't any joy in my new life. I was all alone. No one cared about me, and I didn't care about anybody either. I struggled to find a reason to drag myself out of bed every morning. Tying a stone around my neck and jumping into the nearest river started to look pretty appealing. One day, I was hired to follow some fellas who the local authorities suspected were Razmaran spies. I was stupid. I made a rookie mistake and they caught me. It's like my body had already decided to do what my mind had been fighting. To finally put me out of my misery. Get someone else to kill me, since I didn't have the guts to do it myself. They grabbed me. I thought they'd gut me on the spot, but instead, they hog-tied me and dragged me off. And just like an animal going to the slaughter, my only thought was, let's get this over with. They brought me to their stinking cave, threw me on their altar, and I realized who it was. Kuthites, from Nidal. They'd tracked me down after all those years, but I didn't care anymore, wouldn't even have cared if they'd eaten me or whatever. We all got to go sometime, right? So I was lying there staring at those knives pointed at me when fate rolled the dice and I hit the jackpot. Irabeth. There she was, storming into the cave. Kuthites. Okay. The deity is Zon-Kuthon, also known as the Midnight Lord, the Dark Prince, and the Prince of Pain. God of darkness, envy, loss, and pain, possesses one of the most twisted and evil minds in the great beyond. His position as God of Pain is well earned, and he has been the root of countless tortures, murders, and worse throughout time. He was once a benevolent demigod named Dao-Brawl, but was corrupted when he traveled to the far, dark places between the plains and returned in his current form. His half-sister Shaylin still holds out hope that she can redeem him, though the Lord of Shadows shows no sign of remorse or compassion. Picture it. I'm lying on an altar with all these knife-wielding maniacs around me, and suddenly Irabeth storms in. I thought it was Iomade herself. Fierce in her shining armor with her gleaming sword raised, she made quick work of those scumbags, chopped them up just like that. I didn't even have time to blink. She untied me, and then Anevia's face lights up as she chuckles. She looked through the papers they had on the table, and she started swearing like a sailor. So much for Iomade, haha. How did you and Irabeth end up in Canabris? After almost becoming a human sacrifice, I knew I never wanted to leave Irabeth's side. Desna knows I fell for her instantly, and I fell hard. My misery was gone, and when Irabeth showed me what was in those papers, proof that the cultists had a nest in her home city, well, I offered to help without a second thought. Anevia smiles warmly. She must have figured I couldn't wait to get my revenge on the cultists, but I didn't give a damn about them. It was her. I'd go anywhere with her, even on a crusade or into the jaws of a dragon. But I took to life in Canabris like a duck to water. I used to be an outcast wherever I went, but half of the Crusaders are the same. After all, who'd volunteer to tangle with demons on the edge of the abyss? You gotta either be a goody two-shoes with too much honor and free time, or a misfit with no life out in the normal world with normal people. People come here to run away from their debts, their past, from themselves. So I fit right in. What's it like living with Irabeth? It's like living. Without her, I wouldn't be. Seriously, if I were alone, I'd definitely be gone by now. Sure, sometimes we argue, can't deny that. Sometimes we bang our fists on the table and yell so loud that the walls shake, but that's all about order business. But at home, well, I'll give you an example. I've kind of always wanted to move out of that broom closet we call a house and into somewhere cozier. It ain't like they take a vow of poverty at the Eagle Watch, but every month, somehow most of our spare money is spent on Crusader business. Sure, I get mad about it, but Anevia makes a helpless gesture. It's part of why I love her so much. You know, Irabeth has that thing that matters most for a person, a purpose in life. She's always got a reason for whatever she's doing. Her whole life is a crusade, and I just drifted around, like a leaf in the wind, until Desna brought us together. Now she's the meaning of my life, so it really makes no difference if we live in a mansion or under a bush. Thanks for your answers. Thanks for asking. Telling you all this kind of made me feel better. What are your responsibilities in the Eagle Watch? Anevia smiles evasively. Nothing official. I'm not even a knight, you know. I just hang around. You sure you want to know the details? Catching traitors and spies and cultists is no walk in the park. It's a delicate job. You can't always do it all within the letter of the law. What if we surprise some suspicious blighter with an official search? Everyone will know about it before long, starting with their cronies. Then again, sneaking into people's houses at night ain't exactly legal. Crusaders can't be doing stuff like that, can they? Well, I'm not exactly a knight. She trails off. All right, watch yourself now. All right. Who else do we have over here? Pink Eye? Just listen to this woman. Isn't it amazing how much nonsense can fit into such a small package? Seelah's up there. And someone named Hilor. Let's see who that is. A tall, athletic man greets you. His hair is prematurely gray and shorn close to his head in a military style. He is lean and well-groomed, and a monocle twinkles coldly in his eye. The bold set of his jaw and his large but agile frame attest that here is a man who is always ready to be on the move. Greetings. I am Hilor, venture captain of the Pathfinder Society. Oh, is this where we can hire mercenaries? I am the superior officer among Pathfinders in this region of Mendev. However, the Society is running almost no operations here right now. Besides me, there are almost no Pathfinders here. Actually, I'm only stuck here because of an old feud with a demon worshipper known as the Spinner of Nightmares. I've had to work alone without the support of the Society. But I've made a lot of acquaintances among the local mercenaries and daring fighters. If you need any good fighters for an honest cause, talk to me. Tell me about your confrontation with the Spinner of Nightmares. It all began with a task of the Pathfinder Society. I arrived in Nerosian with my team to investigate the sudden death of a famous crusader, Baron Falron. We soon focused in on a small hospital for the wealthy, where Falron was being treated shortly before his death. It turned out that a gang of Baphomet's cultists, calling themselves the Labyrinth of Mind, had gotten a foothold at the hospital. They were obsessed with twisting the minds of their victims and targeted fragile people too weak to resist. The hospital was filled with perfect victims, isolated for weeks from the outside world, completely helpless. And when they returned, they were different, almost normal. But the moment they heard a certain phrase, something dark awoke in their mind, and they transformed into servants of Baphomet, ready to lie, betray, and even kill. The Labyrinth of Mind was preparing to infiltrate all the elite circles in Mendev, but Baron Falron stopped them. He was too loyal to his oath and too resistant to their spells. He fought for his freedom until the strain broke his heart. We opened and cleaned the city of Baphomet's pit of vipers. Their den was a cradle of sin and filth. They cast spells on each other, and their loathsome fantasies stepped real from their minds into the world. They dreamt of horrible and forbidden things, and they fought like mad. We burned the place to the ground and slaughtered everyone we could. But the leaders of the cult were able to flee, and they were set upon revenge. They abducted my daughter, Lori, who served under my command in the Pathfinder Society. They left me a note full of tart insults, mockery, and sneers. From that note, I learned the name of my enemy, the Spinner of Nightmares. A few months later, I confirmed that she was the leader of the Labyrinth of Mind. My hunt had begun. I would get Lori back at any cost. Hilor grits his teeth with bulldog determination. I want to know more about you. What exactly are you interested in? I'm a common Pathfinder. There are many others like me. Fate and my orders brought me to this land. How'd you end up here? I was working on an assignment for the Pathfinder Society, and then a demon worshiper named the Spinner of Nightmares abducted my daughter Lori. For the past 3 years, I've been trying to save her. During this time, I've become a specialist in scouting demon territory. I've even planted agents among the cultists. Truth be told, in pursuing the Spinner of Nightmares, I've been acting more on behalf of Queen Galfrey than the Pathfinder Society. It's a long story, maybe I'll tell you the rest of it sometime. The Spinner of Nightmares is a true spawn of the Abyss. I've fought her many times, but I've never been able to seize her by the throat. Tell me more about your daughter. Hilor smiles, showing his healthy white teeth. As a girl, Lori was just an angel. We lost her mother early on. She was left to follow my example, a drifter with little idea how to talk to a 10-year-old girl. But even with such questionable parenting, Lori managed to grow into a wonderful girl. Brave, smart, beautiful, and entirely unbearable. She's always argued with me about everything. When Lori was 18 and told me she was going to be a Pathfinder, all I said was, all right. I knew there was no use to try and talk her out of it. And she was a fine Pathfinder. Hilor's fists clench with a painful sounding crack. I'll never forgive the Spinner of Nightmares for taking my girl from me. Tell me about the Pathfinder Society. The Pathfinder Society is a global organization that unites opportunists and adventurers of all kinds. We explore the world and uncover its secrets, travel and sometimes face down threats. In times of trouble, the latter becomes our primary focus. We're driven by curiosity and the desire to make the world a better place. And of course, some seek profit or hunger for glory. But in any case, it's hard work. They might send you anywhere on a mission. Weaklings have little place in the society. It's more for seasoned fighters. There are society lodges in many cities. The closest one is in Nerosian. They're each led by venture captains, lads like me. The Grand Lodge is in Absalom, the center of the world. The Decemvirate sits there, the anonymous council of our leaders. So, looks like we can hire mercenaries. What's this about training? We'll get a great mentor from Absalom. For the first few times, he'll train your fighters free of charge. Oh, that's okay. To respec. Alright. Good. So, that's Hilor. Irabeth's over here. And Seelah. Okay, Seelah. Seelah smiles at you warmly. Hey there. During that march through the dungeon, we never got the chance to exchange a proper greeting. It's high time I shake your hand. I'd like to know more about you. Of course, ask anything, I'll answer honestly. Tell me about yourself. Where are you from? I'm a little bit from Geb, a little bit from Katapesh, but mostly from the Knights of Iomedae. I was accepted and began my training at 14. I belong to their ranks more than I belong to any other place. You've come to Mendev by a long road, haven't you? A very long one. Seelah looks at you cheerfully. A traveler is expected to have amusing stories. Unfortunately, I have only 3 tales of any interest, and I'd like to save them for our next feast. Otherwise, I won't have anything to show for myself when it's time to start bragging. And that just won't do. Especially since I'll win the night with my cautionary tale of a battle with chupacabras. Isn't your attitude toward life and war too carefree, especially for a paladin? Was that a hint of a reproach? If you're only just asking, then no, I don't think so. You have to know when it's time for jokes and when it's time for mourning. The right moment for joys and for sermons. And sometimes a good traveling story can be all those things, if it entertains and purifies the soul. That story about the chupacabras is one of the good ones. Picture a small town in Kadira, and down in the dungeon there's 2 murderers waiting to be executed. The gallows are already built for them. The rope's been bought, but sometimes life takes a surprising turn. Suddenly, a paladin of Iomedae appears in the doorway and offers the murderers a deal. If they go with her to fight some monsters, they'll live. If they survive, that is. There's a big difference between imminent death and probable death, with a glimmer of hope, wouldn't you say? So here we are traveling through the desert, me and my friend, a priestess of Sarenrae, along with the little rat folk fellow who'd asked for our help, and the 2 cutthroats. We get to the rat folk village and see their bodies lying around, all drained dry. We figured we'd have to fight vampires. That's how the little rat folk described the monsters who attacked their village. That's why we went in all brazen-like. The sun was high and the vampires couldn't attack until dusk. But we never got a chance to look around. Black shadows, quick as the wind, attacked us from all sides. Not vampires, but chupacabras. One of the lads we pulled from the gallows got killed right away. The second one ran for his life. That left me, the rat folk, and Kira, that was the name of the priestess, and we all steeled ourselves for the fight of our lives. And just when we thought the end had come, with the chupacabras surrounding me like a pack of dogs around a bear, our rat folk friend, wounded and down, and the teeth of the quickest of those blasted monsters clenched on Kira's shoulder, right then, when all hope was lost, the other lad from the gallows suddenly comes running back. He kills the beast, attacking Kira. I'm sure you know what a turning point in a fight looks like. Well, this was it. A moment before, we were lost, and a moment later, we had it back under control. The chupacabras dropped dead, one by one. The little rat folk is reunited with his family, who were hiding in the basement. The priestess and I closed the eyes of that boy from the gallows who saved us. It was a shame he didn't survive the fight. May the gods keep his soul in its journey through the afterlife. That's a good story. He could have died in disgrace on the gallows, but instead he died a hero. And I'd fancy the stunt earned him some points at his final judgment. It's smart to remember our journey doesn't end in death. Had it not been for that mercy, Milos, that was his name, would be hanging from a noose, and me, Kira, and all the rat folk would be dead in that village. Someone told me that a kind deed done by an unkind person is 100 times more precious. By the same token, an evil done by a noble soul is 100 times more horrifying. That's what I really wanted to say. The chupacabras were just a good starting point. What made you become a paladin of Iomade? Seelah's gaze sharpens momentarily, then she sighs. That's a serious question, and a good one. You should ask it of your companions, but it's a long story. To start with, 12 years ago I was nothing like the person I am now. I roamed the streets of Solku with the other homeless orphans. I stole, I fought, I was a hired sword for a bit. Not the proper origin for a paladin, is it? Back then, Solku was a city of orphans, widows, and widowers. Gnolls decimated the city regularly. My parents were among their victims. People there heard about new deaths before they'd finished mourning their previous losses. One day, a group of knights of Iomade brought a glimmer of hope to the city. But while others saw them as saviors and protectors, I was busy pricing up their noble horses and their gleaming mithril armor, wondering just how much one of their pretty swords would fetch. Haha. A thief lives one day at a time, that's what they say. I was the type that never thought past the next job. Anyhow, I was able to sneak into the knight's camp and steal one of their mithril helms. Seelah pauses, her voice sad and measured. And I was right there when a gnoll attacked the helm's owner. Akemi was her name, and dealt a blow to her unprotected head. A gnoll, like all those others she'd fearlessly driven from the gates of Solku. That one blow was fatal, but who was really to blame for her death? The gnoll attacker or the young thief named Seelah? We'll give her a little break on this one. You couldn't have known the consequences of your actions. I couldn't, but I knew full well I was committing a crime, and I targeted someone who came to help my city in a time of trouble. There are times, Zeke, when you can't hide behind, I didn't know. But you were asking what brought me into the ranks of Iomade's warriors. We all choose the paladin's path for our own reasons. Some are guided by nobility of spirit, some by a desire to fight injustice. I became who I am through a penance and a debt unpaid. The day Asami died protecting my city, I wanted to kill myself for the terrible guilt I felt. But then I realized it wouldn't make the world any better, and I decided that instead, I'd try to take her place. I'd become who she had been and protect the innocents that she would no longer be able to protect. What are the principles that paladins of Iomade follow? I'll tell you, I like to recite our code. It feels like I've said it 1,000 times, but it never gets old. There is strength in these words. After a pause, she begins, her voice slow and meditative. I will learn the weight of my sword. Without my heart to guide it, it is worthless. My strength is not in my sword, but in my heart. If I lose my sword, I have lost a tool. If I betray my heart, I have died. I will have faith in the inheritor. I will channel her strength through my body. I will shine in her legion, and I will not tarnish her glory through base actions. I am the first into battle and the last to leave it. I will not be taken prisoner by my free will. I will not surrender those under my command. I will never abandon a companion, though I will honor sacrifice freely given. I will guard the honor of my fellows, both thought and deed, and I will have faith in them. When in doubt, I may force my enemies to surrender, but I am responsible for their lives. I will never refuse a challenge from an equal. I will give honor to worthy enemies and contempt to the rest. I will suffer death before dishonor. I will be temperate in my actions and moderate in my behavior. I will strive to emulate Iomade's perfection. When Daskari attacked Canabras, everything seemed to be lost. But the first person I met after the catastrophe was you, my sister and Faith. I believe this is a sign that Iomade watches over us. I hope that's true, although to be honest, our mentors used to warn us against being too eager to see messages from the goddess in every little thing. Being devout is all well and good, but you've got to rely on your own head. Okay. Irabeth said your friend Gianna Aldori is missing. Do you know where we should look for her? Irabeth is worried about her fighters. I understand that. I wanted to look for Gianna myself, so I didn't distract you. But since you're in this too, I could use some help. Gianna and I met in Canabras a few days ago and just hit it off. We went drinking together. We went to that unforgettable celebration together too, but we got separated in the crowd. So we should start looking from the main square. That's where I last saw her. Seelah frowns. Gianna's a good fighter, even if she is green. She couldn't have become an Aldori otherwise. I hope that means she's alright. What do you think of what's going on in Canabras? It's complete chaos. It's lucky we're here to handle it, right? Seelah smiles brightly. Then she gives you a worried look. Does the way I talk bother you? I know I can seem blasé. Many good people and our protector, Terendelev, died here in Canabras. A paladin of Iomade is expected to be properly respectful and solemn. But I prefer to face my troubles with a smile and a bit of common sense. Grief is a weapon they'll use against you. It can undermine a warrior's spirit. It's better we hold off on grief until we've driven the last demon and cultist from the city. There's wisdom in the traditions of mourning, and one shouldn't reject them. All the more so if inappropriate merriment could offend other mourners. Many people's loved ones perished in Canabras. Seelah sighs. You may be right. I should keep myself in check more. Better discipline, more self-control. Qualities suited to a paladin. Is fighting demons all you want, or are you looking for something more? How about covering myself in glory and becoming the hero of 100 ballads? Or at least a dozen, if they're lively ones. Seelah's eyes shine cheerfully. Anyway, to be more serious, the area around the World Wound is the best place for a paladin who wishes to defend the weak and serve good. Being part of the crusade is reward enough for me, but there's something that worries me. I don't want to sound like I'm criticizing my brothers in arms, but the Eagle Watch and the other orders are focused on just one aim, the war against the World Wound. That's why they can sometimes overlook the smaller things. Ordinary misfortunes, you know. I always liked being a wandering knight because any moment I could get up and go help a poor rat folk whose family had been kidnapped, or an old woman whose favorite dog had gone missing. So here's my answer. I don't have some big important goal, but I'll be happy to help those who need it. A little bit here and there. Okay. See you later, Seelah. Okay, we've spoken with Seelah and Anevia. And we learned about Pathfinder Society here from Hilor. Let's check in here with Irabeth. Irabeth rubs her red and tired eyes. Any success? How is the city? We haven't left the Defender's Heart yet, but we're working on it. What's our main objective? You heard what the demon said. They're going to desecrate the Wardstone and blow up the whole barrier around the World Wound. That would be an even worse disaster than the World Wound's expansion before the Second Crusade. Not only Canabras, but every city with a Wardstone will be destroyed, including the capital. We can't allow that, no matter what. We will retake it, even destroy it if we must. Iomede's gift must not become a weapon of the Abyss. The Wardstones, what are they? All right, we've learned about the Wardstones. Allow me to ask a few personal questions. Frowning a little, Irabeth nods. Please, I must warn you, there are some things I don't have the right to discuss. Where are you from? I was born in Canabras. I grew up on a farm just outside it. But my way back home lay at the end of a long and winding road. It took me years of traveling through foreign lands before I came to where I've always belonged. How did you become a paladin? A bitter smile appears on the half-orc's face. I don't much like to remember it, believe it or not. The story of how I became a paladin is also the story of how I failed to become a knight. My parents were Crusaders. May their souls stand together in Iomede's celestial army. When I was born, they retired from the war and started preparing me to continue their legacy. But my father was an orc. You'd be pressed to find a calmer, wiser, and more pious servant of the goddess than he. But still, all his life he was dogged by sideways looks and whispers. When I grew older, and it was time for me to serve, I decided, anywhere but Canabras. That was where my father had served loyally, and his only reward had been injustice. Besides, the witch hunters, led by the Honorable Prelate Holrun, stalked the city with a heavy hand. Who knows what they'd have done to a strange girl with green skin. Instead, I went to... A smirk that looks more like a painful grimace crosses her face. You can laugh if you want, but I was young and foolish. I chose Lastwall, of all places. You can imagine how well I was accepted in a country that's been battling the orcs of Belkzen since its foundation. There were many there like me, but we were all treated as second-class citizens. To the locals, my green skin was worse than leper scabs. Even my brothers in faith kept their distance. I took my vows, and the goddess granted me the powers of a paladin, but even then, not a single order would accept me into their ranks. I spent another 6 months knocking on doors before I realized a simple truth. I serve Iomede, not these people. I don't have to prostrate myself before them, so I left, as a paladin, but not a knight. It's probably hard for you as a human to imagine what it's like when the very color of your skin and the fangs in your mouth make people in the street turn on their heel to avoid you. I mean, no offense, of course. How did you come to join a knightly order? I left Lastwall and went traveling. The goddess guided me, and my path led me to where atrocities were happening. I often fought in exchange for gold, but never for unworthy aims, of course. I wandered the river kingdoms for a few years, killing monsters and tracking down criminals. Sometimes I thought I was just wasting time, that my true place was in Canabras. But I pushed those thoughts away. I didn't even want to think about going back. But in the end, divine providence had brought me to my senses. It happened in Timon. I was tracking a gang of bandits, which my employer suspected was a cover for Razmarin spies. I managed to find their lair, but inside I found something far more dangerous than spies. An unholy temple to Zon Kuthan. When I broke in there, the cultists were about to sacrifice someone, the person who was destined to become my wife, Anevia, but that's another story. Yeah, Anevia filled us in about that. Quite the story of meeting. After I cut down the cultists, I examined their papers and couldn't believe my eyes. A network of evil cults had spread through all of Avestan, including Mendev. Worse, the documents clearly showed that their allies, the Templars of the Ivory Labyrinth, had infested my native Canabras, and were even among the ranks of the Paladins. After that, delaying my homecoming would be tantamount to desertion. Luckily, I was no longer alone. Anevia was as eager to destroy the cultists as I was. The Templars of the Ivory Labyrinth, pledging their lives to Baphomet. These cultists schemed to subvert the good works of the Crusaders. They caused trouble in Crusader camps, instigating fights and egging participants on to greater violence. They spread lies and sowed the seeds of fear with voices sweetened by magic. Some have even assumed the roles of holy crusaders and risen in the ranks of other knightly orders, waiting for the moment when their treachery can be used to achieve a most foul end. Anevia and I hurried to Canabras. We couldn't trust anyone. The papers indicated that the cultists had infiltrated everything. Luckily, I had some experience in investigation, and my beloved, the half-orc smiles warmly. She knew her way around working locks, tailing people, and trading information with the city's bottom feeders. Soon we defeated, alas, not the whole Hydra, but a few of its heads. Do you know who turned out to be the leader of the cultists? The commander of the Eagle Watch. Can you imagine? While Prelate Holrun was chasing witches through the city, the enemy had infiltrated the very order responsible for internal security. The scandal reached the ears of the Queen. At first, she planned to disband the order in disgrace, but then she offered its command to me and put its salvation in my hands. Of course, there was one small catch. I wasn't a knight, but I was made commander just the same, skipping the usual progression through the ranks. I can't imagine the followers of Zon Kuthon in alliance with demon worshippers. Shouldn't they hate each other? They should, but Baphomet's minions are masters of deception. They manipulate Zon Kuthon's butchers as eagerly as Iomede's knights. The cultists from that unholy temple didn't know the true face of their associates in Canabris. We ourselves learned the truth much later, after getting to the bottom of their nest. How did the people of Canabris feel about your background? They tolerated it surprisingly well. I shouldn't have been so wary. Crusaders don't tend to be prejudiced as a rule. After all, heroes from all over the world, even from other continents, come here to fight the demons. Apparently, the people were only suspicious of full-blooded orcs. There were already many like me here, and we don't have any problems. Though the locals do have their superstitions. Mendev is as merciless as Lastwall, they just have a different set of victims. I kept seeing those same sideways looks and scowls, hearing the familiar whispers, but where once they used to whisper behind my back and point at me, now they whisper in my ear and point at someone else. It's so strange to be on the other side of humiliation, to wipe the spit from your face, and suddenly be invited to change position and spit at someone else. You must have figured out by now that I'm talking about tieflings. It's true, there are many of them among the cultists, and few among our crusaders, and our fighters do all they can to drive away those who would be our allies. People shun them, call them Arilu's spawn, or worse, as if they chose to be born like that. I believe it's quite a feat to rise against the call of one's blood and join the forces of good. Still, most only see them as the enemy. I once saw a knight bleeding to death because he wouldn't let a tiefling priest touch his wound. Alas, I haven't been able to change this in all my time in Canabris. So it sounds like playing a tiefling main character could be interesting here. Tell me more about Anevia. We met in Timon as I was wandering aimlessly from one ordeal to another. We returned to Canabris together to expose the Templars of the Ivory Labyrinth. The day the Queen knighted me was the second happiest day of my life. The first was the day of our wedding. But Anevia isn't just my beloved. She is my staunchest ally. We share every victory and defeat. The best of me is alive thanks to her. Thank you for saving her back then, the day Canabris fell. Before her return, the only thing giving me the strength to protect the Defender's heart was the hope that I'd see her again. We are in your debt. Tell me about the Eagle Watch. It was a small order created to fight not only demons, but also the enemy within. To maintain the purity of the paladin ranks, prevent heresy, and identify spies. And it failed miserably at that. The Templars of the Ivory Labyrinth infiltrated it and formed their nest within its ranks. After the Queen entrusted me with leading the order, Anevia and I practically built it from scratch. We got rid of dead weight, people who weren't committed. We organized ways to transmit messages and orders safely. We introduced reliable ciphers. We found tacit allies around the city, from Crusader orders to street beggars. This was my personal crusade, to purge the city of the Templars who had infested it. And I thought I was winning. I could feel it. We were so close to driving the cultists out of Canabris, but it's hard to admit, but those successes didn't count for much once the demons entered the city. On the contrary, if it wasn't for you, there wouldn't be a headquarters at the Defender's Heart. The cultists would have served up the city on a platter to the demons. The lines on Irabeth's forehead softened. Yes, that's true. It's a good thing we achieved something. Thank you. Go, may Iomade keep you safe. I just noticed this. It's cool here that we can actually see an indication of the teamwork feats on our character. Oh, Saxon leveled up too. I didn't think he had. Let's take care of that. Okay, we're going to grab weapon focus for the bite for Saxon there. And that gets him leveled up. So, there's our exit. Still got a couple people over there. We haven't run into Lann yet. I know he's right there apparently. I guess we walked right past him. Oh, right there at the fireplace. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead and visit here with Lann. Lann greets you with a nod. Here for a chat? I've been waiting for you to come and see what strange beasts you've taken into your party. I'd like to know more about you. Let me guess, your first question is, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Am I right? You speak common much better than the rest of your tribe. Funnily enough, common isn't all that common underground, Lann says, but your observation is correct. I used to live on the surface with my parents for a while and had a chance to learn a couple things. The language and the fact that every peasant who sees my scaly mug screams demon and runs away. I don't know if you're interested, but my mom wasn't from an underground tribe. She was a smuggler, the kind that used the dungeons of Canabras to secretly move and store goods. One time, two gangs couldn't agree on how to share a prime cut, got into a fight, and the winners threw the losers down a hole, dead and living alike. My dad went to check if the corpses had anything useful on them, and he found a girl from the surface, barely clinging to life. An incredible feeling sparked between them, or maybe the girl just liked men with scales and a cat nose. That might be it. One way or another, he got her back on her feet, and he later left his home caves. She left her smuggling behind, and they began an honest life together. That's the delightful story of how old Lann came into this world. The next chapter, however, my family and I never stayed in one place for long. We lived sometimes on the surface, sometimes underground. We couldn't find a place to call home. Living in the caves was hard on my mom, and my dad's appearance raised too many questions in Mendev. They're at war against the demons, after all. In the end, my parents decided to stop making each other miserable and separated. My father and I returned to our tribe. I think the peasants screaming demon had something to do with it. Or maybe Dad just couldn't stand life without rat tail soup. I wouldn't rule out the possibility. Did you come with me so you could see the surface again? No, it wasn't. That wasn't it. I just don't have much patience for certain types of creatures. Demons, I mean. If they want to destroy Canabras, I'll be on the side of the people they're attacking. Lann, you're my companion, and companions should trust each other. I'm counting on you to give me honest answers, not excuses. Lann looks ashamed. I guess you're right. I shouldn't have been so evasive. It's just that some things are hard to talk about. My family, for example. My birth, hell take me, turned out to be a great misfortune for my parents, all because I'm relatively healthy. I'm the best thing that can come from a marriage between a cave-dwelling mongrel and anyone from the surface. A healthy child with the right number of hands and feet, no apparent defects, no missing organs or other problems. They saw hope in me, so risked having more children. They thought it would somehow be all right. A growl edges into Lann's voice. I could have had 4 brothers. The first was born 2 years after me and died 3 years later. He didn't have a nose. Nothing even remotely resembling one. He could only breathe through his mouth. Mom and Dad were afraid to take their eyes off him, for fear he'd choke and suffocate on something. But in the end, it was his weak heart that killed him. Then there was another pregnancy and birth. I pretended I was sleeping, but snuck out of my bedroom and listened under the door. All those hours. It was very strange, but I never heard the newborn screaming. Mom moaning, yes, the priests praying. Then I dared to open the door a little and looked inside. The priests stood there very pale. One of them was holding something, a small object that fit in his palm. He asked, "Do you know what this is?" And the other said, "I think it's a head." Enough. You don't have to keep going if it hurts you. Hell no, I started to tell you and I'll make it to the end. You want to know why I followed you to the surface? Well, here's the reason. Lann pauses, exhales, and continues in a steadier voice. It turned out that this time, Mom was expecting triplets. The first of the babies was born in pieces, and the two others didn't live long enough to draw their first breath. About 3 weeks later, my father took me to the caves. He didn't want to leave, I could see it in his face, but I think my mom and he decided it together. The curse my people have carried since the first crusade stood between them, not to mention the 4 dead babies. And old age was rapidly taking its toll on my father. After we returned to the cave, he only lived another 4 years. So if you're asking me why I decided to go up with you to the surface and join the Crusaders, well, the answer is I've always wanted to. I was afraid to leave my tribe, but it always haunted me that I'd die in a world where 4 crusades could do nothing to stop the beasts from the abyss, and the number of victims kept growing. I wanted to change that, or at least try to. And if changing things is too much to ask, then at least get a little revenge. The ones who are behind the world wound owe me a great debt. The lives of 4 brothers, all my mother's tears, my father's broken heart, it's a lot. It's so much that killing a couple of demons won't do it for me. I want to do something real, and am ready to pay any price. Call it my personal crusade if you like. I used to think that things would be better if I had never been born, but now I think I was born for this, to settle the score. Why didn't you go up and join the Crusaders before? I couldn't just abandon my tribe. I'm their best hunter. They'll have it much harder without me. But now that the demons have nearly destroyed Canabras and the caves almost collapsed on our heads, sitting and waiting it out just wasn't an option anymore. Anyway, I'm more useful up here than I am down there. Plus, the chief let me go, which means my debt to the tribe has been paid. Would you like to find your mother? No, the word flies from Lann's mouth faster than an arrow. Then, after a pause, he continues. I don't want to meet her, not because I feel any resentment, it's just that she's a half-elf. She's barely got her first gray hair, and I'll be a ramshackle old man. She's buried enough children. There's no need to make her witness the death of another one. I hope you understand. I am very sorry, truly. Lann smiles, this time sadly. Well, then I'm very lucky. I met someone who not only helped me choose the right path, but is happy to listen to my whining. Your parents' love didn't survive hardship, but that doesn't mean the same thing will happen to you. What if you find true love, someone who won't leave you no matter what? And break my beloved's heart when I die in her arms 5 years later? That's a fine thing to do to the person you love. Then again, there's a chance I'll inspire some tragic bard to write a tearful ballad. Mongrels have short lifespans, but you don't look like you're getting old or dying. How old are you? Lann chuckles. I'm as old as I look. No surprises there. But remember Sol? He's 10 years older than me. I remember him back when he was a fearless warrior, and day by day I watched him turn into an old man. Him and my father. It happens very quickly. First you miss a shot because you don't see the target as clearly as you used to. You think it's because your eyes are tired. You tell yourself it'll get better tomorrow. Then you notice you're having trouble breathing, that climbing is harder than before. Lann clenches and unclenches his human fist. Your fingers stop bending. You have to tie your sword to your hand. You can't even put on your greaves without help. When you're washing your face in a stream, sometimes you catch sight of a gray-haired, wrinkled old man you don't recognize. And this goes on until one day you come across a cave beast and you realize you can't outrun it. Lann takes a breath. My dad kept diaries, marking all the signs, and I saw it too. The last year I had to help him get out of bed, help him dress, remind him to eat. Sometimes he forgot my name. I told him that we should have stayed on the surface, and he joked that dodging a goddess was behavior unworthy of a crusader. He meant Pharasma. Every morning I wake up and check how I feel, but there are no signs yet. Even so, I know I don't have much time. I need to do something useful before I forget why I came here. So let's talk about Wenduag. Are you sure? Lann sighs. All right. Tell me about your connection to Wenduag. My connection to Wenduag? Where do I start? Lann turns the unexpressive, reptile half of his face to you. We grew up together, trained together. She was the chief's daughter. She was groomed to be the best all her life, and then I came along. We were rivals, but we dragged each other out of tight spots, too. I've always been drawn to grand heroic gestures, sometimes idiotic ones, whereas Wendu liked to roam unexplored passages, finding new caves and making maps. She wanted to be a great huntress, the one who'd make it through the shield maze, but instead, Lann shakes his head. It'd be better if she'd died. The death of a friend is painful, but watching a friend become a shadow of their former self is unbearable. She doesn't think she's a shadow of her former self. Of course, she thinks she did everything right, because the second she starts to doubt herself, she'll have to face the truth, to admit that she's just a cannibal that demons use as they wish. Lann's frown almost looks like a wince. She wants to get stronger and stronger, but for what? I'll never understand what drives her. Were you just friends, or were you more than that? Well, you really don't pull any punches, do you? There was a time when I asked myself the same question. Wendu knew me better than anyone. She understood me better than anyone. She was my first woman. But we never loved each other. Maybe I could have grown to love her, but it always seemed like she never understood what love was. Maybe she just wasn't capable of those kinds of feelings. So, can you wear a hat with your one horn? Sure I can, but certain designs don't suit me too well. Lann speaks in a deadly serious voice. Tell me more about your people. Of course, what would you like to know? What's it like living in your caves? Oh, Lann gives you a broad smile. His smile is strained, as if it falters where his human features meet his animal ones. Imagine that in the entire world there's only a few hundred like you. There's not an inch of fertile ground anywhere. Nowhere to grow grain for bread, or cotton and linen for cloth. Your neighbors are beasts who want to eat you, or parasites who want to infect you with their larvae and then eat you. And it's not that bad because you can try to eat most of the things that are trying to eat you, sometimes at the risk of getting poisoned, sometimes with almost no risk at all. In the worst years, there's not a single living thing anywhere to be found, predator or prey. That's when you eat mushroom soup. I'd say 3 times a day, but there was barely enough for once every 3 days. Lann shrugs, but life underground has its upsides, pun intended. There's no risk of losing the roof over your head. There's no bad weather, no counting the earthquakes, of course. Are you really the descendants of the first Crusaders? More like demon spawn, aren't we? Sad but true. Without the demons, there would be no mongrels. It's the magic of the world wound that affected our ancestors and made their children the way we are. Like most in our tribe, Chief Soul fancies himself a descendant of the underground Crusaders, the ones our heroic ancestors left to guard the caves. I don't know if it's true or not. That angel came to our caves for a reason. Maybe he remembered us. Those were evil and dangerous times after the First Crusade. Hundreds of Crusaders began having children, and the babies were born with fangs and horns and warts that covered half their face. People didn't like the new look. The Inquisitors sure didn't. So our ancestors fled persecution and made a home for themselves down there under the ground. They probably intended to find a cure for their children and hoped to return in time, but it never happened. Instead, the World Wound's terrible legacy was passed down from generation to generation. Mongrel parents can only guess what their child will look like. Each of us is born with a new mutation. Many mutations are fatal. Lann stops, then goes on quietly. Down in the caves, we usually don't congratulate the family for the birth of a child until they turn at least 3. Most don't even get a name before that. There's no point. It hasn't been that long since the First Crusade. Why do you know so little about your ancestors? Our lives are much shorter than most uplanders. Up here, only a few generations passed, and many still live who remember old Sarkoris as it stood untouched by the demons. Queen Galfrey, for example. But where we live, mongrels start getting old much earlier than humans, much faster, and with more devastating consequences. Few live past 40, and fewer still live long enough to die of old age. Hunger, disease, and monsters from the deep are more effective killers than time. So for us, the story of the First Crusade is a legend that happened generations ago. There are no living witnesses. We have a tale of the wise and great ancestors who left us to stand guard in the catacombs. But in reality, I suspect they were desperate wretches who couldn't figure out how to dispel the demonic plague and who were abandoned by their own kind. Do you have a way to tell day and night? You can't see the sun in your caves. Every mongrel settlement has a big gong, which we treat like a relic. The gong keeper... Oh, so that's Wenduog talking about the gongs. I get it. The gong keeper hits it twice a day to mark the beginning and end, but this custom doesn't keep time very precisely. Every mongrel child has snuck up to the gong to strike it at the wrong time at least once, just out of pure mischief. Nothing could keep me away from it, not even the fact that I only have one ear, which means it would take double the punishment once I was caught. So, sometimes the wrong strikes get mixed in with the right ones, and the tribe can find itself jumping up to greet the morning in the middle of the night. Do the mongrel tribes fight each other? There were some skirmishes, and I've been forced to kill my kinfolk before too. Lann speaks in a steady voice. Fights most often break out over food. We have laws in the caves, written and unwritten rules that we follow. We respect one another's right to live, but hunger, it can push a person over the edge. I've never, you can count on that, stolen someone else's kill, but I can understand those of my kin who tried. To hear your kids begging for food and not be able to feed them is terrifying. You're the only member of the Neathholm tribe to call your people mongrels. Why is that? Because all of Golarion calls us that. I don't see the point of all this hemming and hawing over what we're called. Anyone who finds it offensive or takes issue with it can lead the charge against the name. No one's stopping them. But personally, I'm not going to pick a fight over something as unimportant as the name. What do you think of life on the surface? It must be very different from life underground. Of course, as far as living conditions, the surface is definitely a better place to be. It's easier to get good food and water, not to mention build a house and even grow a few things. In older, well-established settlements, you don't have to deal with anything scarier than rats, or maybe foxes stealing chickens. As for the kind of lives you live, I heard a story about demon worshippers abducting a whole family and sacrificing them one by one while the others watched. But there were some brave Crusader knights nearby, and they killed the villains and saved everyone. And I heard another story. A young blacksmith lost his arm in a fire, couldn't work to feed his wife and baby. They tried their best and lived from hand to mouth, but they were still destitute. In the end, the desperate blacksmith robbed a traveler one night on the road. But there were some brave Crusader knights nearby, and they caught the robber and threw him in prison. Not long after, his wife smothered their baby and hanged herself. Up here, the same person can proudly say he's protecting the innocent from demons, and then look the other way while the same innocent starves just because they were born into a poor family. Queen Galfrey prolongs her life with sun orchid elixirs that cost enough to feed an entire city. Back in our caves, everyone is equally poor, and if one person starves, the whole tribe starves. We don't abandon our own in times of trouble. That's the power of a tribe. The laws of the surface are made so that some get everything and others get nothing. I might just be a naive fool from the caves, but I don't understand how it's possible to have so much more and share so much less. Anyway, look who I'm talking to. You must know life on the surface much better than I do. I'd never leave a needy person in trouble. I've been given more than most, which means I'm now more able to help others. A fitting reply, don't take my words as a reproach. I like grumbling as much as cracking jokes. Lann is obviously trying to muster a friendly smile, but it's an expression his face doesn't accommodate very naturally. You said you were prepared to risk your life, doing something meaningful. What exactly did you mean? To invent a new salad and have it named after me, Lann remarks grimly, then he sighs. Truth be told, I don't know. It would be much easier if all I really wanted was to kill demons, then a few more demons, then more demons after that. Good, honest rage and no needless brooding. I think I actually envy the warriors who can live like that. But I can't. If life's taught me anything, it's that there are no easy choices. Dying a glorious death isn't enough. Some heroes of the Crusades did that and also saved entire settlements. Erected the ward stones, their actions kept the lands of Mendev safe for decades. That's what I want, for my dumb, short life to have meant something. You think I have an exaggerated opinion of myself? Some scaly freak crawls out of the caves and wants to take control of the ward stones and flaunt Iomede's banner? Any fool can charge at the front lines of the demonic armies and die there. But what good will that do? I want something meaningful, you know, even if I have to pay the highest price. Especially if I have to pay it. There are plenty of worthier people who need to survive this war and tell everyone else what nutcases we were. Right. Thank you, Lann. Well, we've just about talked to everybody except, I think, back here there's maybe another vendor. Forn Autumn Haze. A tall, fragile elf sits in front of you, eyes closed. He is pale as a ghost, his arm wrapped in a blood-stained bandage. You spot other bandages on his body under his clothes, but even in such a miserable state, he manages to keep calm. Raising his eyes to meet yours, he says faintly, "I am Forn Autumn Haze, at your service." His pale lips are reddened by blood, but you see no signs of pain or fear in his gray eyes. "Do you need help?" After giving you a cold, intense look, he shakes his head. "Do not trouble yourself on my behalf. A local healer tended to me. Besides, I come from a resilient, hardy people. My body will endure both the wounds and the poison delivered through them." "Who are you?" "My name is Forn Autumn Haze. I've come here from Kyanin because I am a hunter, and all minions of evil are my quarry. I won't say more than that, if you don't mind. We are strangers and of different races and cultures. I'd rather not tell you more than is necessary." "Who wounded you?" "A sinner and accomplice to demons, the quarry I'm hunting in this inhospitable place." "I'm Zeke. You can trust me. I might be able to help you." After a brief pause, Forn says, "It would be impolite to refuse such a direct and friendly offer." "Who is your quarry here in Mendev?" "I was hunting a fugitive, a Descarite by the name of Kaelessa. It pains me to admit that there are heinous malefactors such as her among my noble kind. I managed to catch up to her in Canabris, and I wounded her. Then demons appeared and the city was engulfed in flames. I was injured in the battle that ensued and couldn't free her soul from its service to her dark masters." He expresses no anger or hatred as he speaks, only compassionate sorrow. "I'm sorry for your misfortune. I hope things will turn out differently next time." He purses his lips. "There's no need for pity. Our ancient kind is blessed with great longevity. We gain a deeper understanding of the world than other races, and we learn our lessons better than anyone. That goes for learning from our mistakes as well. I survived, which means I will be more prepared when next we meet." Okay. "I'd like to know more about you. I won't hold anything back, not who I am, why I made my way here, or who it is that I'm pursuing." "Tell me more about yourself." "Other people tend to believe that identity is the sum of a person's actions and the events that happen to them. For them, I am one of a long line of warriors of Kyanin who, since his youth, has dedicated himself to hunting evil and injustice. For them, I am a successful and capable huntsman who has tracked down and slain a great many monsters. But I am an elf, and for me, my identity has a different meaning. It is shaped by the place where I was born and that I love so deeply. I am shaped by what I find beautiful and what makes my heart quicken, by the fears that come to me in the dead of night, by the things I find so intolerable that at the sight of them, my very core darkens and fills with poison. Thus, to tell you who I am, I would require many days and much candor, which is more than you and I have at our disposal." "Why did you choose to be a hunter of evil?" "Because I am the son of a noble and proud nation. We are sometimes criticized for our arrogance, but no one dares doubt our honor. When a crime is committed, we cannot turn a blind eye. If we were to abandon our obligation to oppose evil, if we were to surrender this obligation to other races, we would also relinquish our preeminence. Okay, we'll aid you in your hunt. Forn covers his eyes wearily. I thank you, but this is my mission, and I'm used to facing all manner of terrors on my own. I do appreciate your willingness to help. If you happen to meet Kaylessa, take caution. She has turned many innocent souls to the path of evil, and darkness has rewarded her with many gifts. Her appearance alone will tell you that it is warped. The agate skin, the malicious stare of her blood-red eyes, the bestial teeth. She's more monster than elf at this point. Interesting. The outcast. Some representatives of elven kind are arrogant, believing themselves to be superior to most other races. They're convinced of their own nobility and high purpose and look down upon those of their kin who have turned to evil and the worship of darkness. The fate of such outcasts is typically bleak. The hunter Forn has arrived from Kyanid to track down and kill a fearsome cultist, Kaylessa. He encountered her once before and failed, but he refuses to give up. Perhaps meeting an ally has improved his chances. Forn, a hunter of the servants of evil, has reported that a dangerous cultist by the name of Kaylessa is hiding in Canabris. He described her remarkable appearance, gray hair, dark skin, and scarlet eyes, and warned just how deadly she can be in a fight. So it looks like this is like kind of a side quest here. Doesn't have the little hourglass icon here. Okay, boy. I think we've spoken with everybody, at least who has an icon on here. But we can still go to the basement. So maybe we'll check that out next time, see what's down there. Well, I know that was a lot of dialogue to get through, but really wanted to visit with all these people and make sure we get to know everybody as well as we can. Next time we'll head down to the basement, see what's down there, and maybe eventually head out here from Defender's Heart. Really appreciate you being here with me, and hope to see you again next time. Bye-bye.